Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard announcing this week that she referred the declassified documents relating to the Russia collusion investigation to the DOJ, now leaving any potential criminal charges in the hands of Attorney General Pam Bondi. For more, we're joined by former federal prosecutor and former Trump attorney Jim Trusty. Jim, this is really quite an interesting development. I was at the White House this week when all of a sudden Tulsi shows up in the White House briefing room. Here's a little bit of some of what she had to say. Listen here.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win.
Then Pam Bondi announcing that there's this strike force team digging into all of this. What do you make of it?
Well, look, I think it's an important investigation for history, if nothing else. I'm not convinced that it's going to be particularly easy for anyone, special counsel or not, to come up with criminal charges, because most of the conduct occurred in like 2015, 16, early 17. You might have a little bit of a stray false statement afterwards, but there's a significant statute of limitations problem. The federal statute for non-capital cases is generally 5 years. And so that's a starting point that's very uphill here. Then you add in the idea of presidential immunity that Obama would have enjoyed. And that's an iffy question. You know, the Supreme Court kind of created the guidelines, but we don't know how that would play out. Is it something where you look at it and say the president was just ordering an intelligence review, which sounds like an official act? Or could you, and I think Gabbard makes the case, frame it more like this is a president intent on using false information to hobble his successor? That doesn't sound like something that might be immunized. So lots of thorny questions. I think the big benefit of a special counsel, believe it or not, and I know the president's probably allergic to this notion in general, is that you end up with a report. And, you know, most prosecutions, if they don't go to court, you're not seeing their underlying information. I think for history, it would be important to see all of the information that can be gathered by a special counsel in an investigation.
So that's really interesting, Jim, and we can show our viewers. So the special counsel notion came about from Senator John Cornyn and Lindsey Graham. They tweeted this week, "For the good of the country, we urge Attorney General Bondi to appoint a special counsel to investigate the extent to which former President Obama, his staff, and administration officials manipulated the U.S. national security apparatus for a political outcome." So you're with them. You agree that there would be something to gain.
Yeah, but probably for different reasons. I mean, I think their view is that special counsel gives some distance from politics. The reality is, Jack Smith, if you go back to what we lived with for a few years, Jack Smith was answering to the attorney general. It's a very different statute than independent counsel. So it's a bit of an illusion to pretend that special counsel aren't part of DOJ. Maybe these senators think there's some plausible political distance there. But I view it as a case where it's going to be very unlikely that criminal charges can be filed, but it would be very helpful for all of us to know just how outrageous the conduct might have been by the president, by Comey, by Brennan, Clapper, people that were in positions that they really should have done a much better job for the country than that kind of dirty trick.
Well, there's certainly a lot of interest in this. And to your point, President Trump was actually admitting that former President Obama has immunity on his side in the departure before he left for Scotland yesterday. Let me turn quickly to another topic, and that is of Alina Habba. You know, she was nominated for U.S. Attorney in New Jersey. The 120 days on that ran out. She ran into roadblocks, and she's tweeting out now that as acting New Jersey U.S. Attorney, that she's not backing down. You can see President Trump, Pam Bondi's Attorney General. I am now the acting U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey. Where do you see this going?
Court, unfortunately. I mean, look, it's a crazy kind of three-dimensional chess battle where the president had her as an interim, appoints her for the full-term position, has to withdraw that to let her be the acting, which gives her about 210 days. So at the very least, in about 200 days, all hell's going to break loose. But the bottom line behind it that I think is troublesome is the New Jersey senators Booker and Kim are using their blue slip power, which is essentially a home state veto where they can tell the Judiciary Committee, let's not even have a hearing on the full-term position. And that's kind of the rub that's created this issue of how long she can be in there and what the title is. the problem I see is that the senators don't seem to be phrasing it in terms of some sort of issue of her skills or her competence or her level of prosecutorial aggression. It seems to be based on the fact that she's willing to prosecute a New Jersey congresswoman who was involved in kind of assaultive behavior, apparently, at one of these
on an
detention
ICE
center
officer.
protests.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Well,
and you know, the film doesn't make it look like a bad faith prosecution, but that seems to be the focal point for the Democrats in New Jersey, and I think that's a shame. That should never be the criteria when you've got a good faith prosecution that she's willing to pursue.
We got to leave it there. Jim Trusty, thank you for taking time. Have a great weekend.
Sure, good to see you, Griff.
All right.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.